Again to Couples Emporium. Today we are excited. We have some friends of ours that we're about to interview, and just looking forward to it. Once again, I'm your host, Lincoln, and this beautiful lady next to me is Sandi. So now let us introduce to you the Shays. So you can go first, sir.
Yeah, I'm Michael Shea. We both live in Derby, Connecticut, of course. But I'll let my wife say her name first, and then we'll
Yeah.
jump into that.
My name is Rahaf. We are parents to two beautiful boys.
That's right.
Never a dull moment in our home. We do our best. I think every day is a one day at a time kind of day in our house.
Definitely energy packed, as we like to say.
And some of that is our own fault.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Sometimes depleted energy on our side and fulfilled energy on their side, but it's all.
Like
that.
that. And what about occupation?
Yeah, I work full time as I do sales for a ed tech company, education
Okay.
technology. I work for a company called Final Site, and I've been doing this role probably for like a year and a half, but I've been with the company for, I don't know, almost 6 years now. So
Mhm.
Okay.
um, definitely a more comfortable kind of space for me, and
Mhm.
that helps a lot. Um,
And I currently work part-time as a parent ambassador for Derby. So primary objective of my job is making sure that families know about resources that they may need, whether it's, food banks or job opportunities or housing affordability or, anything pretty much that we can set like families up with that they may need to make sure that their kids are successful. Um,
Okay.
I also am actually, funny enough, starting in August, transitioning into graduate school to get my master's in education and go back for what is like, the opportunity to teach math, which has kind of been a long-term dream of mine. So, really getting excited to like check this off of my list that's kind of been hanging on for way too long. But here we
Awesome.
are.
Awesome.
You want to do section two?
Yep. So we're going to dive into section 2. Briefly describe how you met.
That stuff.
Want to start? Do you want me to start?
I feel like you tell this story better
Okay.
than I do.
We'll both give you a chance to tell it. But we
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
My side of it's definitely very different.
So when we initially first met, we met as part of a larger friend group. And the story
Mhm.
behind that is that my cousin and his wife, as well as a couple of other friends of ours, were a part of this larger friend group. And Rahaf at the time was, I guess, on Bumble Friends, I think is what it is, looking for like a new friend in the area. She had just moved up to Connecticut. She didn't really have many contacts here, so she was kind of like looking
Mhm.
for a group of friends or friends to kind of, hang out with. And she met my cousin's wife, Alex, who you both know, of course. Through Bumble Friends. One thing led to another. They became good friends. Eventually, Alex introduced her to the whole friend group, and
Mhm.
yeah, the rest there I think is history. Kind of interacted. We definitely like had a lot of things in common. Um,
Mhm.
we'll talk about this a little bit more in some of the later
Yeah,
questions, but
sure.
Okay.
that's like the gist of how we first met.
Uh,
Mhm.
from my perspective, it's a very interesting story, I tell you. I at some point when my son was about 2 had left what was a very toxic marriage. I was in a lot of like, bad space. It was both like not a comfortable environment to raise a kid in, and it was not a safe environment for me, I think, long term. And so like it was a very hard decision. I moved back with my parents, and then I was court ordered to come back to Connecticut because
Ooh.
we share a child and the child was a resident of the state of Connecticut. So I was inevitably, yeah, gonna have to live up here, and I didn't get a choice in the matter. And so after, that really rough, let's say, like couple weeks of getting to Connecticut, figuring out how to live on my own. Mind you, I had never lived on my own a day before this, right? I realized I was not in like a good headspace. So I decided to seek counseling from the women's shelter in Waterbury. Spectacular place. Recommend it to anybody. Anybody who needs counseling, they offer free counseling. They're spectacular. And so after almost a year of counseling with them, my counselor is like, Ruff, you're doing so much better. We had been
Mhm.
journaling, we had been talking about things, we had really kind of like gotten to the root of a lot of trauma there. And she was like, you're doing great, but you don't have any friends. And I was like, I don't need friends. She
Right,
was
right.
like, you know what?
That's sweet.
She was like, you know what? Your assignment this week is to download Bumble Friends and make at least one friend. She was like, message 5 people. If they don't respond, then whatever, but just message 5 people. And one of them was Alexandra, and the rest is history.
More,
So it was a crazy kind of like, who'd have thought, And here we
Yeah.
are.
moral of the story is we're very thankful for the college or for the counselor
That hooked
that
me
helped
up.
ultimately land us together. So,
Yep, we're strong advocates for
Yeah.
getting counseling because there's so much that they go into, and a lot has changed in that arena
Mhm.
now, especially from COVID. A lot has changed now where they're not just like going into the mental stuff; they embrace everything pertaining
Mhm.
to life, and that's commendable. That's
yeah.
commendable. And question number two is, what attracted you to each other? Because Mike, you were saying something about you had a lot in common. So unless you want to divulge in that a little bit later on, it's up to you.
No, that's
Probably
pretty
more appropriate here, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. That's pretty much exactly what it was. So she was an immediate hit in the friend group because she has an extremely social personality, was beloved by all very quickly, myself included. And one of the things that had happened to me prior to meeting Rahaf was like a year earlier or so. I had actually been in a longer term relationship that ended very
Mhm.
badly. And after that relationship, I was in like a period of trying to like pull it all back together. And I
Mhm.
got advice from my sister, actually, from Rachel, who was kind of like, you should sit down and you should think of exactly like what your non-negotiables are for
Mhm.
finding someone to be like your person, to be
Yeah.
your eventual spouse. And I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll do it. Like I didn't really give it much thought at the time, but I
Yeah.
did seriously I did seriously sit down, think through it, and actually write down like what my non-negotiables are, like what I
Yeah.
would like to have in a spouse, what is important to me, that sort of thing. Um,
Mhm.
and very slowly, one by one, as Rahaf entered my life, she started ticking all the boxes. So she literally and figuratively checked my boxes. And that I think more than anything else, that more than anything else, I think was the most attractive quality about her to me. Um,
Awesome.
but yeah, that really is it in a nutshell for me. How about you?
Oh, okay. I feel like in the time period that I was kind of transitioning into this friend group, I, was kind of in what was like, I don't want to say like a tough spot, but it was like a tougher time in my life. I was, single momming to what was a 3-year-old, I think transitioning into 4-year-old autistic boy
Mhm.
by
Right.
myself. And I was working night shift tutoring jobs. I was tutoring kids like across the country on like the west coast, and I was just like doing whatever I could to kind of try to make ends meet. And
Yeah.
one of the big things I think was that like when I had like major hiccups, like at one point my car transmission went out, and I'm like, I don't know anything about cars. I haven't had to know anything about cars. So like I think when this problem happened, Michael, like without even asking, he just was like, "Oh, I'm gonna come check it out." He had AAA tow it to a shop that also confirmed that it was not fixable. He offered his car for like a couple weeks until I was able to find a car, and I felt like just the reliability and the comfort and security I felt like when we were together, it really felt like, I don't know, like a good, like just like space where I could feel at ease. And that was
Yeah.
like rare, I think, in a time where I felt like I was in fight or flight all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. And number 3, have you experienced a defining turning point in your marriage? If so, describe it.
It's got to be the second kid. I feel like
Yeah. Some context for sure. So we obviously Rahaf had a son before we got married, so I have
Yeah.
a stepson, and part of that is that she co-parents Ahmed,
Yeah.
our oldest, with his father. So prior to having another child, we had Ahmed like every other week, essentially, is how it
Okay.
worked. And what that means is that
we had
Was that the
had,
court's arrangement?
what'd you say?
that
Was
was
that the
tutoring.
court's? Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think initially when we first got married, it was actually like a weekend thing where
I think right. We had 4
yeah,
days a week and he had 3
and he
days
had
a
3.
week, and it was like a Sunday to Tuesday, and I think then it was like Wednesday to Sunday kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like meant to be a ramp up into what is like a 50-50, but
Yeah.
dad had not spent time really like fully parenting, so he needed kind of like a transition to like
Mhm.
figure out how, kind of like solo parenting looks like for him.
Yeah.
And I was more than happy to watch. I was like, he's my boy. Of course, I'm going to take him as much as I can, and I'll
Right?
when I have to. But
Yeah, but what that translates to is that we were parents for 4 days of the week, but then there were still 3 days of the week where we got to like reset the house, do all the chores, have a date night,
Nice.
unobstructed, like
Mhm.
spend quality time together, do
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. So it was kind of like in our heads we were like, oh yeah, we're parents, like we're doing it, we're living the parent life,
Mhm.
but the reality was that it wasn't the same. And I don't think
Yeah.
that was something we really truly thought through until we had our second son, Yusuf.
Yeah.
And at that point, then you're full-time parenting 24/7, and you're parenting 1 week with just one child who's
Yeah.
a baby who's
Wow.
under 2, and then the next week you have the under 2, and then you have your 4, 5, 6 year old, as he kind of grew up through that stage. But it's like 2 different age groups with 2 very different needs
Yeah.
together with
Mhm.
and you don't have that recovery period where you can just do and reset the house. You have to work that in. And I think that was a
Yeah.
huge turning point for us because like with anything else, when you add something that's an additional kind of layer of complexity to your
Yeah.
relationship, it brings with it like conflict, and it brings with it
Yeah.
challenges.
I think it brings things for you to focus on that aren't each
Yeah.
other, and it becomes hard to remember to focus
Yeah.
on each other sometimes.
Yeah.
100%, 100%. It
Mhm.
becomes like really hard to try to like you have to be very intentional, I think is the word, about finding time to spend together, and
Yes.
also like
Yes.
ensuring you're still spending time with your children, and also ensuring, I mean,
That
you
you're
guys
working
you
and
guys
that
know
you're
all this, right?
cooking
Like
and
you get it.
cooking.
There's the responsibilities and there's the kids and
Yeah.
finding time for each other. And it's like I think learning that and
Mhm.
going through that together has been a definite trial and test for us.
Yeah.
Learning, how to deal with each other in difficult times, how to deal with each other and work with each other through conflict, how
Mhm.
to appropriate even small things like appropriately assigning household responsibilities, like that sort
Mhm.
of stuff, like learning what we're good at, what we're not good at, what we can do under pressure, what we can't do under pressure. All
Sure.
that stuff. It was a major life change, and I think that was a really impactful one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm.
I feel like even in the positive perspective of turning point, like I think that like having Michael come in and it's like, oh, here's a 4-year-old, it's like he's 3, he's 4.
Yeah.
You kind of like skip some of the tough stuff, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, you haven't woken up 4 times a night and you have
and
changed
I had
diapers.
not.
Right.
Very true.
And there were layers of difficulty, I think, that like he really got to skip. And so I think like there was a turning point in the sense that I felt like he really saw some of the struggle that maybe he hadn't gotten to experience yet either. Like even I remember vividly after I gave birth, he was like, that was crazy. Like like, maybe we don't do that again. He was like, that was a lot. I think at one point I thought you might die. You know, I think at some point my blood pressure tanked.
Yeah.
I was in labor for 3 days. It was difficult to say the least. And I think that was like, in a sense, a turning point, in the sense that I felt like we had now faced and conquered this new big mountain of a problem, and I felt seen. I felt like I was like, you now understand, you've seen it, right? I could say it's hard. I could say it's painful. I could say, it's life threatening, but I think
Yes.
to like experience and live it,
Yeah.
and then have, and he's there and he's as supportive as he can be, and he's like, do you want me to hold your hand? And I'm like, no, get away from me, I'm miserable. and and he's doing his best, but I think like, having to like wash your hands of the fact that maybe you can't be the person that fixes it, right? He
Yeah.
can't, like, at the end of the day, it's in God's hands what happens, and he's not the doctor, so he can't make decisions, and he can't get in there and try to do
Yeah.
anything. I think at one point he was like, should I say goodbye? Like, is she gonna be okay?
Yeah, it's very tough moment.
And I think times like this, where like we've kind of made it to the other side of that, really, I think reminded me that, like, even when I feel like he can't be helpful, I couldn't have done it without him next to me, and that
Yeah.
was so important to me. You know what I mean?
hmm Sandy and I, we feel that, learning each other takes a lifetime because,
Yeah.
you do learn some things and there's some initial, if you want to call it intelligence, couples intelligence that we gather in the early years, but we find that there's no arriving point. You're constantly learning each other
discovering.
because
Yeah.
you also will change. There are a lot about both of you that's going to change
Yeah.
over the years. And I don't think many people, when they first get married, realize that they're going to change. There's
Yeah.
so much about each of them
Yeah.
that will change.
Yeah.
So we're going to switch to section 3, and we're going to get more into the, I guess, a theoretical part of relationship. So we're going to focus on communication and conflict. So the first question is, how would you describe what we call your conflict style? And this is from the Gottmans, and I'm going to explain the different ones. So normally, when there's any conflict in any relationship, people usually might pursue or they might withdraw. I don't want to deal with her. I don't want to deal with him right now. So I don't want, we need to hash it out. We need to talk through it. So pursue and withdraw are the contrasting style. And the second one is to either engage or to avoid, engaging. And then you have the logical versus the emotional way of looking at things. So I'm going to go through them again. So the question is, how would you describe your conflict style based on the Gottman's research? So it's pursue versus withdraw, it's avoid versus engage, and it's emotional versus logical.
I feel like maybe I want to answer this one a little bit.
Well, you both get a chance.
It's a little incriminating. It's a little incriminating, so I want to start with me so I can describe my perspective. I feel like of the three, maybe I would say we fall more into the emotional, logical conflict style. I find that sometimes too, like, maybe kind of speaking from my own perspective, having come from a relationship where everything I said was held against me, and everything, like, if I was angry in response to something and I responded, then that response was the reason we were having the problem, right? It was like, well, even if you're mad, you don't get to respond this way, or you don't get to express it like this, and that's disrespectful or whatever. And so I kind of was like shaped into a person who, like, when she got mad, like turned off, decided like I needed to like not talk about it, not think about, it's like I need to not engage this right now. I need to engage this when I've calmed down, right? Because like when I've calmed down and I'm more logical, it's like then I can, express what I want and still be respectful and make sure I'm not hurtful and make sure, you know what I mean? Like, it felt like I was always walking these landmines. And
Yeah.
walking into this, relationship with this, I guess, like new shaped self, I
Yeah.
find that Michael can't leave anything alone. Like he has to work it out then and there,
Yeah.
right now. We have a problem. We have to talk about it right now. And I'm like, maybe I'm just upset and I need a minute, or I'm going to
Yeah.
say something mean and I'm going to hate myself. And then I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, it's my fault because I said something mean. And so there has been kind of this like, well, the logical thing to do is to wait. And he's like, no, 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 we're upset. We have to talk about our feelings. And I'm like, it's oftentimes too, I feel like both sides have their pros and cons where it's like, okay, I don't get to avoid it. I'm going to express my feelings. And sometimes it's like, oh, well, now because we addressed this too soon, I feel like we just
Mm.
yelled at each other for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to come to terms with the fact that sometimes one way works better and sometimes a different way works better. But
Mm.
we do often find that like naturally we kind of differ in this perspective, I think.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are you about you, Mike? Any?
I think that's accurate. So like of the three kind of this versus that, I assume like are we one or the other for each three of those? Is that how that works? Or is it like
No,
one?
no, no, no. It's just one or the other. Regarding, or it could be. It doesn't necessarily have to be the contrast where maybe it's pursue and emotional.
I see.
It's,
Yeah.
you're not boxed into just those pairings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
I-
think like it is a combination, right? It's the like pursue and the like avoid, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to avoid it short term. He wants to pursue it immediately kind of thing. And I think it kind of plays into both categories for sure.
Mm.
Yeah. I would say that's accurate. I am definitely someone that like if there's an issue and we're having a fight, like I feel like very quickly after I'm upset, I will not be upset and want to fix it. Like, whereas I think Rahaf typically needs more time to like process and sit in those feelings, think it through, and then come back with
Yeah.
like a more well-formed kind of
Mhm.
assessment, if you will. And
Yeah.
so
And it's pretty much whatever works for you guys.
Mhm.
Every couple has to decide what's going to work for us.
oh yeah.
Because when it comes down to it, it's not me and someone else. It's me and Sandy. So what's going to work for us? What's more comfortable? What can we do without like taking each other's head off? Or say something that's like
Yeah,
disrespectful. Yeah.
Yeah.
grand
Mhm.
scheme of things, relationships, like you always kind of see the like fun stuff out there. You're like, oh, these people love
Yes.
each other, and oh, that's so wonderful. I don't feel like there's like a point where you're like, oh, that was great conflict management, and look
Yeah.
at them resolving their problem.
Nobody wants to see that. It's not.
Right. You don't really get like training.
It's like at the views.
You go in, you mess up a couple times, you're like, well, that didn't work. Let's try again, but let's do it different. And you have to kind of shape the key to your relationship
Yeah.
a little one conflict at a time. I just
Yeah,
wish there
I
was like a
agree.
book
Very
somewhere.
True. So I would say, so the second question is, what conflict pattern have you had to work hardest to overcome?
Yeah, so I think that plays kind of right into this
Mhm.
question where
Yeah.
we've spent a lot of time working on finding like a good middle ground.
Yeah.
I think between my desire to like want to just quickly solve the problem
Yeah.
and Rahaf's desire to kind of take a step back, assess, and then come back to it with like a cooler head, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I think what's worked for us oftentimes is trying to like not go to bed angry at each other,
Yeah.
but still allowing that like maybe cool down time as long as it might take before we enter that like, all right, let's resolve this argument. Let's, why did we feel this way? What really happened? Let's talk about it. And then, let's end our night on that note rather than just being like, that's it, we're done. Or let's talk to each other right now and say things we regret. So
Yeah.
I also find that like one like observed conflict that we kind of had been kind of like hitting consistently was that like I go throughout life and I'm like living my ADHD life and I'm doing my thing and I'm just, I'm floating in space and I'm whatever. And I find that like, a week goes by and Michael's like, these are 10 things that happened over the past month that drove me crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, 10 micro problems that could have been addressed as micro problems, but turned into a big problem. So we've also gotten a lot better about talking about them, maybe like, or at least making the other person aware of the frustration,
Okay.
right? It's like, hey, this is something that's really bothering me. Can we make sure that this doesn't happen? Because I don't want it to like weigh into the rest of my day, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I would not have known about this. I wouldn't have even I would have had no idea. I would have been living my crazy life and just been like, oh, kids drive me crazy today. What's going on with you? And he would have been like, you drive me crazy. and and I think too that like, with kind of the like avoidant style of like, look back, reflect, come
Yeah.
back in a fresh person. I've worked a lot on trying to make sure that I do that within a reasonable time. Like sometimes I do like think, okay, you know what? I'm getting defensive. This isn't a big deal. We can talk about this. I don't have to be as upset as I am. You know what I mean? At times I think too, like when something is my fault, I have to think about why it's inevitably not my fault. I'm like, oh, you're upset about this thing, but that thing happened because of these other things, and those things aren't my fault. And, so coming to terms with the fact that like I can look through Michael's perspective and not be upset and think like, what was he thinking? I could be like, maybe in his perspective, like I did something that upset him, and maybe I can like come to terms with the idea that in his mind, I also am upsetting. It's not just that it's his fault and I don't know why we're angry. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I was listening to when Mike was saying about trying not to go to bed angry. And I remember Sandi and I try to do that. But I'll tell you, there are moments when I forget that.
And I'm not saying we're perfect at it.
No, we're
We
not.
definitely still try.
It's almost like a fear where, it happened.
Yeah.
I think one time we said we didn't want to go to bed angry, so I just didn't go to bed. I slept on the couch.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
I was
So,
like,
again,
I can go to bed. I'm not fixing this.
Not
I
perfect.
did that. I think I did that.
Yeah.
I did that. I was like, okay, fine. We won't go to bed angry. I'll sleep on the sofa.
Yeah, right. I just won't go to bed. Yeah. Yep. But
I think you may have answered the third question, which said, which helped you, grow in communication, because you were mentioning some of those things, Rahaf. So I think we probably could bypass question 3 and go to
Okay.
section 4.
All right. So section 4 is emotional safety and attachment. And the first question is, when tension happens, what do you need most from your spouse? Is it space, reassurance, physical comfort, or verbal affirmation, or all the above?
Yep. So say them again.
So
take it
space,
first.
reassurance, physical comfort, verbal affirmation, or all four.
I think I definitely need a combination of some of them. I think space is obviously one I've referred to a lot, right?
Yeah.
And even if it's like 10 minutes, right? It doesn't have to be all day. It doesn't have to be hours. It doesn't even have to be long enough to forget that you're upset. Like I don't have to forget that I'm upset. I think I have to 50% cool down. You know what I mean? Like if tension is high, I have
Yeah.
to leave it for a second and then come back, because I think I have to like give myself enough time to be all like, but I still love the idiot. It's like, oh, I still like him. I have to give myself enough time to think that, and then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to fight this fight out again. And it's not. I think at that point, I'm able to like talk about it instead of like, cry about it or yell about it. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like an insanely elevated thing. It can be an explanation, right? It's like, okay, well now I've concocted this essay and I'm ready to read it to you. I also find that sometimes maybe I'm a little unreasonable because I need time, but I don't want to be the one to like bring it back up. So I need him to bring it back up, but I don't tell him when I'm ready to talk about it. You know what I mean? So like there also needs to be like some reassurance. I'm like, I want to know, it's like, hey, you know, yes, we're upset, but obviously we're still like where we are and we still love our kids and we still love each other and we're still here. You know what I mean? This is us and we're going to fix it. And let's come back in, you know, a couple minutes and let's just cool down for a second. Why don't I
Yeah.
finish what I'm doing and you finish what you're doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm
Mhm.
definitely a verbal affirmation and like comfort type person after we have
Mhm.
tension for sure. I definitely want to make sure that we're
He does
okay.
not need space.
Like, yeah,
He wants
I'm
no
like,
space.
all right, we just had an argument. Like, you know, I still love you. You still love me, right? Like, we're okay, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely that type of person for sure. But
Mhm.
All right. So question 2 is what makes you feel most secure in your marriage?
That's a good question. I feel like this was one of the ones too that I felt like was so open-ended. I was like, that's so interesting. Like, I don't know, there are a million things that kind of come to mind. Like, I used to do all these like awful headachy things that I feel like I don't even think about anymore. Like, I don't think about car problems. Michael addresses car problems. I don't
Mhm.
think about the bills. They just like handle themselves somehow magically. I don't know who does them, but somehow the bills pay themselves. I never have to think like, I don't know, can we or should we? I think like, oh, I'll ask Michael and he knows how to make these decisions. You know what I mean? And that
Mhm.
like level of security, I think is something that I think is like so pivotal to like me feeling safe and secure in my home, right? Like me feeling like at the end of the day, this is my home, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I get to come home and I get to feel like whatever problems I have will be taken care of. And whether we have to do it together or whether he's like, you know what, this is a big one. I'll take it off your plate. Just don't even worry about it. It's gone. I think at one point I had like a dental bill that was ridiculous. Next thing I know,
Yeah.
Michael's on the phone with the insurance company for like 2 hours trying to figure out why the insurance won't cover it. And it's just like
ugh.
this big headache, right? This big headache. And I think at times like that, I really remember like that we would do anything for each other. You know what I mean? And that feels really like, that feels really great.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
great. That's great.
Uh, I'm gonna take a different, more
Oh,
whimsical
that's
approach. Um, I think like what makes me feel the most secure in our relationship is that we still have fun together. I think that to me like is it just tells me that like no matter what happens, whenever we can find those small moments of like
Yeah.
genuine hysterical laughter or you know experiencing something that's new and unique to both of us, that like seeing a wow factor together, like doing these things that just, I don't know. I often think, and I hear Rahaf often say, like, when I first think of an experience or something that's out there that I want to do, I think I would love to do this with
Mhm.
Rahaf, you
Mhm.
know, and she thinks I would love to do this with Michael. Like we immediately kind of put ourselves in that frame of mind, and then we do things like that, and we have fun, and we do those activities together. And I think it just like really, you know, again, I feel like above everything else, the laughing together aspect of it is really like what makes me think like, wow, this is awesome. And
There have
you know,
definitely been
Yeah.
times I've been invited out to do
yeah,
something and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's a great idea, but no, because I'm gonna go do it with Mike.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go do that with someone. I would like, I think I would have much more fun doing this with Michael.
Yeah.
That's
No,
definitely
I like the that you can laugh together because
Mhm.
life is so hard
uh,
sometimes, and to take time out with the person that you love, it's not just to just come home to the
Mhm.
person, to know that we you can laugh with a person. And Lincoln and I, we've been striving to do that. There's little times we'll just like, he'll look at me and smile, or I look at him and smile. And it's not like we're both bursting out laughing, but it does something to your relationship,
yeah,
because life is so short, life is so fragile. So, to have that little spark where you can, laugh at something, and I think it's just so important. It's like, I think it's just so, to some people, it might be like, what? But when you can have like a private joke between you and your spouse.
Mhm.
You just look at each other from you're over one side of a room and you're over on the other side, and you look at each other, you both just
Very
like
true.
laughing,
Oh yeah.
and everybody's like, you're oblivious to whoever is around, and maybe one person might be like, "What's up? Why are they laughing?" You know, I think that that's such a beautiful thing, and it to me tells a lot about your relationship too. That
Yeah.
you can take something simple and just like, we have our code.
That's
Oh
right.
yeah.
We
I
exchange our secret code.
mm-hmm.
You know, it's special. I think it's really, really special. You want to do section 5?
Yeah. So this brings us to more of the covenant experience that we think of marriage. So does faith play, a role in your marriage? And if so, how?
Yeah. I definitely think it plays a pretty major role in our
Mhm.
marriage and our relationship and how we structure our household.
Mhm.
More than anything, I think our faith gives us like a guiding set of principles, a guiding set of rules
Mhm.
and beliefs that we follow, that we've like agreed upon, almost like a
Mhm.
playbook, right?
Mhm.
That we've kind of collectively decided this is how we're going to hold ourselves, like this is the standard we're holding ourselves up to, right?
Mhm.
And so that can both help us guide our decisions through our day-to-day lives, but
Yeah.
also be that like ultimate like judge and jury almost if there's a
Yeah.
problem or if there's something that like we can't resolve ourselves, it's
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
a something greater than ourselves that we can kind of
Yeah.
look up to and seek comfort within, and do it together. And I think that that's
Mhm.
it's a very major aspect of our lives. um,
I 100% agree. I think too it gives us like a thing to strive for together, right? Like
Yeah.
when you have faith, you have an objective. You are
Mhm.
like constantly like, we pray together, we fast together, we, are constantly pushing each other. It's like, "Oh, why don't we go try to, fast on Monday? Why don't we try to make sure that we pray on time today?" You know what I mean? And we always are thinking of ways to like push each other to be better versions of ourselves.
yeah.
And
Good.
when
Mhm.
you have like, this rule book, we say, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, here is a clear thing. It's like, it's not a question of like, does this make me a better person? Right? We know what makes you a better person. It's
Mhm.
hard to be that person. Nobody's perfect. We're not expecting each other to be perfect, but we are holding each other accountable. And I think
Yeah.
like individually, it's so much harder. It's like exercise. You go exercise at the gym when you have a friend waiting for you, but when it's like I have to wake up at 6 by myself
Yeah.
and do it, nobody wants to do that. It's much harder.
At least
But
not us. We don't want to do
oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
we like dessert
Yeah.
too much.
No, we're not
We're
big gym
not.
people. But
We're working on it. We're working on it. That's another
striving to pushing each other.
to improve.
So
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're
Finish
fine.
up.
All that to say that I think it gives us something to do together that makes us feel like better people for it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Good. So how do you practice commitment during difficult seasons?
So this is the question I feel like I was unsure what you guys meant
Yeah.
by it.
So there's commitment to each other because we know that there are temptations, there are challenges that
Mhm.
arises in marriage, in everyone's relationship, not
Mhm.
even if they're married. And, so how do they stay commitment? How do you stay grounded, during these times?
That's a very good question. I think this is something we actually are constantly working on new things to try to like reconnect.
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
like in the grand scheme of our day, our kids are like such a big component of the day. It's like even when we're together, it's like, oh, I want private time. It's like me, Michael, and Yusuf right here driving us crazy, or Ahmed asking for something, right? It's like, oh, there's always like some other component. So we've kind of gone through like stages of trying what works in that time, right? So there was a stage where we would dedicate, like an hour and a half to 2 hours every night to making sure that, once the kids were asleep, it was like that was us time. And we weren't
Yeah.
to throw it away to just watching TV or doing something
Yes.
that just felt like, it's like we're both clocked out, right? Trying to be present and together. when kind of like things like work and stuff take over that time, we try to remember things like meal times or dedicating time to each other. I feel like at some points Michael would have business trips and we would try to make sure that we at least texted each other whenever we had lunch. Whoever had
Mm,
lunch had to
yeah,
remember to also attach that with a text message like, hey, eating lunch, this is what I'm eating, hope you're having fun, it's busy, things are tough, but still thinking of you. You know what I mean? Trying to remember
Yeah.
these moments where it's just like, oh, so much is happening. Well, let me check in on Michael. Let me see how
Yeah.
he's doing.
Yeah, I think we've recently, so again, some more context, but my job typically I'm working like, I don't know, anywhere from 7 to 9 hours a day, which can
mm,
be a lot. Rahaf is, watching the kids, at least Yusuf,
mm,
all day long. A lot of times, Ahmed, when he gets out of school or in the summer, that the kids are up and awake from 5, 6 o'clock until, 8,
8.
9 o'clock, right?
Mhm.
Like, so there's that whole aspect of it, and it eats a large chunk of our day. And then we're adding on to that. So on the side, I also do like professional game mastering
yeah,
a couple nights a week, and then Rahaf is going back to school. So there's just a lot of competing
mm,
priorities, right?
Mhm.
yeah,
So we've been trying to think and brainstorm of ways to like combat that and really be intentional, right? Again, intentional about finding that time to spend
Yeah.
together or ways to
Definitely.
feel connected. And I think we landed on, I don't know if you saw a post or something about this, but it was this idea of like small things you can do when you're super busy. And it was things like
Mm.
anytime you're driving, making sure you're holding hands, like so that you're still
oh,
maintaining
love
some level,
that.
like, right, like it's just being intentional in that moment about, okay, like, let's make this a small act of intimacy in this moment, right? Um,
Yeah,
or like Rahaf said, this is where the idea of, let's text each other over lunch and make that a commitment that we do. We try to have
mm,
one date night a week. That's something that
yeah,
we on trying to be intentional about.
Mhm.
So I think it's just like trying to find all these different small things that we can do that collectively together uh, preserve that commitment to each other.
mhm. I actually absolutely love those ideas that you shared
Yeah.
because it reminds me when Sandy and I, when the kids were home, when we were back there in Connecticut in Trumbull, and we used to we used to wait till the weekends, and we started saying, you know what, too many things happen on the weekend. So
Hmm.
we started to carve out a couple hours during the middle of the week to make sure that we got the opportunity to spend time together. Anything you want to share with that, Sam?
Yeah, I prefer that because weekend is like the kids are already there.
Mhm.
So we had to like, work things out and we had to realize too, and especially as you know, they're different age range. So we had to like specifically like say, you know what, we have to spend time with each other. And of course, we got resistance, of course, to some outsiders looking in, they're like, why are they spending so much time? They have, but in all honesty, the marriage is first because kids are eventually they're going to grow up and leave.
Mhm.
And then what? Because we mentor couples and we see that time after time, the kids move out or they're off to college or they get married and they leave and they don't know what to do with each other. They're like two strangers living together.
Yeah. Hmm.
And we made a promise that we're not going to allow that to happen. And it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard because your kid is going to come and feel like, oh, mom and dad is neglecting me.
So I'm going to jump into the third question in this section. So, what life principles have shaped your marriage the most? And it doesn't necessarily even be a principle, it could just be something you learned from someone, could even be a friend, a complete stranger, or even a family member.
Mm, good question. Has shaped our whole marriage. Everything shaped.
Well, it's
I can start.
impacted it the most, or,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get
Yeah,
it.
I
Go
think
ahead.
there's a couple that come to mind for me, at least like a principle that I have that I feel like has shaped how I approach our marriage. The first one we've talked about a lot, which is like I'm a big proponent of like trying to not end the night.
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
And I think that for better or for worse,
Mhm.
has shaped a lot of how we approach conflict. And then the second one as well for me is I am a big believer in, and this is something I think you just touched on too, Sandy, the idea that there's an order of like priorities in my life.
Yeah.
At the top is my faith and my commitment to God. Right under
Yeah.
that is my wife, my commitment to my
Mm,
wife. And right under
mm,
that is, my family, my children, my direct family, my commitment to
mm,
them. And I think that whenever I'm going through a crossroads or whenever I'm faced with a big decision, I
mm,
always try to frame it in my like three questions. Is this something that's going to help me better my faith, or is it going to
mm,
detract from it? Is this something that's going to help, better my relationship, or is it going to detract from it? Is this something
mm,
that's going to help my family as a whole, or will it pull my time away from them or prevent my
mm,
relationship from with them?
mm.
And one thing I heard a little while ago that stuck with me is, this idea that kids spell love time, like to them time is what love
Yeah.
is. And so I think
Uh,
just this idea and this value in my mind that, like, yes, I have goals and yet I have ambitions and I
yeah.
have new priorities and
Mm,
hobbies and things I want to do, but
mm,
ultimately what I've committed to myself and what I've kind of been really like raised to believe in is the idea that, there's that order of priorities, and it's one that I
yeah.
believe, one that I'm working always to make sure that my life kind of works around.
Mm,
And I think that's really shaped kind of everything that I do and every decision that we make as well. And I know it's something that Rahaf agrees with 100% as well. So
mm,
like it's definitely helped shape a lot of how we approach our relationship and the big decisions that we come across.
mm,
One
mm.
thing too that like I think this is maybe like a more recent epiphany than not, but like I tell this story sometimes because I think it's funny. I used to always be like, well, when are you gonna buy me flowers? And I want flowers. I used to joke that like I told Michael I don't want flowers on my birthday or Mother's Day. I want them spontaneously.
Yeah.
I want random flowers. I don't
I
want
like
I don't want
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
obligation
I'm a random
flowers,
flower girl too.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Random flowers over obligation flowers any other day. And
Mm,
and I used to always be like, well, now that I told him that, I never get flowers. Now I just don't get them at all. I should have kept them on my birthday. And so one day Michael was like, Rahaf, I like have been thinking like how am I gonna order these? Like how am I gonna get these flowers? Like I work from home, you do all the grocery shopping, like it would be like, oh, I need to take the car. And you'd be like, where are you going? And I'd be like, to the store. You'd be
Yeah,
like, well, what are you buying?
we have one
And
car as well, so that's the other thing.
we
is
do
we
share a
have
car,
one
right? So
car.
I'd be like, I need to schedule
Yeah.
time with the car. And I think like in that moment, he might as well have bought me flowers. I was like, oh look, he thought about it. You know what I mean? It was just
Yeah.
the thought that occurred to him. And I thought, wow, in my head he bought me flowers. You know what I mean? And that like put a smile on my whole day. And I think I've like tried to frame things in my perspective on the fact that like maybe I'm asking for something, but what am I really asking for? Right? Like I'm asking for flowers, but I'm really asking you to think about me. Just like what's a
Yeah.
micro, what's a
Mm,
what's a micro thing that you can do today to make me feel like you're thinking about me and it's not just
mm.
life passing us by and then we get old and I'm like, "Oh, just kidding. I didn't remember that we were it's like, "Oh, you're still here." We're still doing the thing. And he did buy me flowers. I do want to correct to say he actually woke up before I woke up because he thought she's not going to need the car if she's asleep.
That's right.
And
Took Yusuf, we went and got flowers, came back.
Right, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because we have a joint account, so
Don't
I
look.
would often
Sometimes you
say,
can't stop money.
Yeah, she handles the money.
so I would like see a charge, and this was when we were in Connecticut, and I didn't think anything of it because I'm like, it's not crazy, so it's not a
Mm,
crazy amount, so I'm not going to think about it. And then when we went to Florida, came back to New York, he wasn't doing anything. And I would say, and he was like, well, I don't want to touch the money because you're gonna know that I touch the money. And I'm like, but you didn't do anything. You know, I said, find a way. You're the math guy. Find a way out to
Right.
do
This
the
is
L,
Frank's problem.
you know, do the math. Do the math,
Even
math.
if you know about it, like even if I knew about it, I feel like, so what? I found out a little early. That's all right. It's still better than nothing.
I will say I manage the money in our relationship. We also have like a joint account as well. And Rahaf has found some very, very strategic and brilliant
There are
ways
ways
to like not get me to see that she has gotten something until like later. Until after it happens.
I've told complicated stories.
Yeah.
I think at one point something came in the mail and I was like, oh yeah, my friend asked me to order this. Like you find
Like,
ways.
gets it with a different card that's unrelated to us, and then like waits to Venmo the person after. Like she's
Like in
gotten
their
really good.
ways.
She's gotten very good at
That
it.
is
I've been
definitely
extremely
one
surprised.
way is you find a friend, you're like, hey, do you want some points?
Yeah.
Like, hey, you got a credit card? Do you want some points? I'll Venmo you. Just let me buy
Yeah.
this one thing. And it's easy. And like grand scheme of things, I think like it's not even, I think like the timing and the delivery is nice and stuff, but that's
Yeah.
probably like, like in my opinion, at least from what I expect, like not the most important part, right? The most important part is just that I felt like somewhere along the way you had to think about what to get. You thought about me, you did the thing, and you did a thing without me asking. It's like, oh, here, I just thought about you. This is something I thought of.
That's great. I like
Yeah,
that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Me too.
Mhm.
Okay, section 6, practical systems. Do you have structured married habits such as weekly check-ins, date nights,
I think I shared
budgeted?
that.
Yeah, you did
Yeah.
share
I think I shared
the date nights.
Well, you could have
All right.
as a second one.
We have
So
quite a few systems, to be honest, I think.
Yeah.
all right, so what daily or weekly habit has had the biggest impact?
And I think it's the one that Mike shared when they were talking about, the ways that they carve out time. But I'll let you tell it.
We
Go
can
ahead,
think of
Mike.
something else too. Do you have something you want to throw in?
Well, so our anniversary is December 30th
Mhm.
because we needed to file our taxes together.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm joking. We actually wanted a very small affair and we thought, why wait? But one of the things that we do is we kind of combine our anniversary with like a planning, kind of, so we'll go off, we'll find like some form of like small weekend something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we'll spend a weekend somewhere and it's both for our anniversary, so we're spending time together, and we call it State of the Union. So we address
It's our annual planning retreat.
it's our annual planning retreat. We talk
It got
about
a rebrand this year.
we talk about what we kind of have accomplished this past year, what we want to accomplish next year, and we talk about it in quite a few categories, right? We talk about what we've accomplished spiritually, like am I the version of myself that I think is, what I like, the quality of work I want to put out there when I want people to describe me for who I am Islamically, like am I a good person, right? What can I improve on? So it's like these are things I did well. These are things where, these are places where I dropped the ball, and this is places, I'm going to improve next year. There's like, the spiritual side, the financial side, the family side. Are we spending enough time together? Do we feel like we as a couple have connected well this last year? And do we need to improve on it next year? Or do we feel like we want to kind of hope to maintain what we already have going? What do we want to introduce?
Yeah.
And then I think it's like the parenting side, like, what did I do as a parent this year that made me feel like a good parent? Where are times where I feel like I could improve? Like, do I don't know, stress about things I don't need? It's like kids make messes all the time. And we went from being able to keep a clean house to consistently coming to terms with the fact that the laundry never ends. It never ends. Lincoln, I kid you not. I think sometimes it just stresses me out thinking about it. I'm like, do we even have pants? And so like, there are components where I just have to be all like, okay, these are areas maybe where I can improve. these are areas where I think it's not realistic. Like I'm not realistically going to be able to always have the laundry done. So
Mhm.
these are things where it's just like, hey, I'm going to float until things get better. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love when we do our annual planning trips. I don't know. It's good to set goals. It's good to kind of reflect on what you've
Mhm.
accomplished and what you could
Yeah.
improve on. And then we also do like small moments of romantic things during those trips. So
Yeah.
like we'll do, we'll write on note cards every time that we pass the counter. You have to write on a little sticky note one reason you love the other person and stick it on the fridge. It's like so
Ah,
we work that type of stuff into it too,
yeah.
and then we marry that with trying to check in at some regular basis throughout the year, which then makes
Yeah.
it kind of more of like a formalized weekly, maybe bi-weekly, quarterly type
Mhm.
uh, just check in and ensuring that we're on the track to what we want to do and who we want
Yeah.
to be.
Absolutely love that. So
Yeah.
it's my
Okay. No, you go
yeah.
ahead.
All right. So the last section. So this is more on the wisdom and life experiences. So are there any financial principles or tips that you use rather that you can share to help other couples?
Yeah.
For our listeners out there.
So I know like there's different flavors of this across many different philosophies, but
Yeah.
in Islam, one of the things we hard stop believe in is the idea of not really going down the path of any sort of credit or
Interest.
interest based anything, right?
Mhm.
And I know there's like the big Dave Ramsey theory. It's kind of a similar thing, but it's
Yeah.
just for us, I think, well, some background as well here. So, I obviously went to school and I came out of school with a lot of debt. Rahaf went
Mhm.
to school, came out of school with no debt. She did it with, she was very blessed to have the opportunity to go to Augusta University and have the state of Georgia pay for her entire like ride through university.
Wow.
It's actually not uncommon. They have a thing in Georgia, lest any listeners be
Yeah.
in a state and thinking
Move
about
to
moving
Georgia.
another state. If your kid goes to high school in Georgia and maintains a B average, then the state of Georgia will pay for any Georgia university tuition,
So,
Ah,
and I think it's bigger than
regardless
that
of
too.
income?
regardless of
Yeah.
income. I think like a B average, and they will pay. It's called the Hope Scholarship. I believe it's something like 80%. If you maintain a 4 average, like if you have a straight A
Yeah.
average, I think it's the Zell Miller Scholarship, and they'll pay your whole tuition.
Yeah. So
Mm.
because of that, right? Like I think, just that aspect of it, and then the debt spiral that we've seen happen with a lot of folks, both
Yeah.
friends of ours, but also like just stories that you hear over time,
Yeah.
I think that's been like such a big principle of ours, especially financially, is this idea that
Mm.
like no matter what, we're going to do it without securing any sort of interest bearing loan or debt because
Mhm.
that's just what we believe in and that's just what we're going to hold strong to.
Yeah.
And that has really helped us be able to kind of one live a lifestyle that is one we can afford and not like
Yeah.
start comparing our lives to other people's lives and trying to buy up
Mhm.
into a lifestyle we can't afford and going down
Keeping
that
up with
path.
the
Yeah.
Joneses.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's so detrimental to people, especially when you're younger.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
I still consider myself to be young. So especially when I'm younger,
Yes, you
um,
are.
We're getting old.
some people tell me I'm old, Sandy. Listen,
We have been
recent,
aged out. There's a
recently
generation after
recently
us.
we went to a scout camp and
Yeah.
we were like the leaders there, and
We
they
were
spent
unk.
they spent the whole time telling us how old we were. So
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, I digress. I definitely think that would be a big financial kind of like piece of advice I would, give. I think like if you're not someone who believes in the idea of not acquiring any debt, then I would strongly encourage you to consider at least being smart about it and trying to really only acquire debt that is smart. And even
Like a
then, like
mortgage.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right? Like things that are backed by an asset. And
Yeah.
I would argue, so as someone who's been to college and got a college degree and is
Yeah.
still paying for the college degree, I would argue that that is not worth the debt, and that borrowing
Mm.
against your future income is a
Yeah.
well-known. So,
Mm.
Yeah,
Well, I think one of the major components of maybe student debt, I have a lot of qualms and issues with the idea that we have 18-year-olds who can't legally drink but are allowed to take on debt for half their lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like it
just
is
sign a piece of paper and
I argue often that it's predatory, but
Mm.
the idea of going to college doesn't have to be this like, oh, sometimes you're offered so much more than your tuition even is, right? It's like, hey, you could take this loan and you can have an extra $10,000 to do with whatever you want
yeah.
for books, for food, for whatever you want. But it's like, an 18-year-old with $10,000 when they've never held that kind of money often looks like things like, oh, this is fun. Here's
Mistake.
entertainment. Here's
It looks
right.
like mistake.
And all
Yeah.
of that is on borrowed money. So I often say, like, don't allow a system that is meant to prey on you as a person in need of money take advantage of you because you're willing to, kind of like, I don't know, exchange future comfort and security for current fun and
Yeah.
excitement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
going back to graduate school, I waited a long time until I found a program that worked for me because I needed to find a program where they would pay for my tuition, one where I thankfully have kind of acquired and like discovered the Yale Teaching Fellowship. I don't know if anybody's trying to go into teaching in Connecticut, but it is a great option. They will actually pay for your schooling and they will pay you to do it, but you have to promise like 3 years of teaching to the city of New Haven. So the idea
Yeah.
is that in exchange for like,
That's
you working the job
Yeah.
that you're already going to
Yeah.
work anyway,
Yep.
that they will pay for my tuition. And I thought better that than ever, have to take
Yeah.
out student loans and fight
Yeah.
more of that fight. It doesn't ever really like
Yeah.
make sense for us.
Especially if you're getting their training. I mean, it's a
Mhm.
win-win situation.
Yes, it
And
is.
you could just go right over to Hill House High School.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm actually starting at Wilbur Cross.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
Oh, that's the competition. Our
I did
biggest
not place my
rival.
placement.
But I would say
Yeah.
that's the big one. That's our probably big like financial piece of advice for people.
Yeah.
Avoid it if you can. If you really, really can't, just be smart about it. Think twice. Know what your asset backing that debt is, and hopefully it's something.
I argue that you always probably can. You should
Yeah.
always avoid debt.
I agree. There's always probably a way.
There's almost certainly.
And then last question for you guys. Are there any key messages you hope listeners would take away from today's interview?
Oh my goodness.
I feel like one really big one I would say is that you should never compare your marriage or your relationship to another one that you see out there. For
Sure.
a couple of reasons. If you as a person, are living in a marriage and you're in a time where you're struggling and you're looking out and you're like, look at all these happy people. Why are we not happy? We must not be working it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's not
Yeah.
working for us. We're not meant to be.
Mm.
Then you're setting yourself up for failure because you will
Mhm.
always look out and find smiles, right? You don't see what's behind them. You don't see how much effort it took for
Yeah.
them to get there. You don't see how much
Yes.
effort you don't see how much effort people have to go through. And a lot of time people are smiling through pain. The happiest
Yeah.
people on social media are usually the saddest in their own family units.
Yep.
Wow.
That's true.
Mhm.
Yes. That
And
is a fact.
even then, I think like my like adjacent piece of advice is that if you have problems, try to work them out yourselves. Really like give yourself a fair fighting chance of trying to like work through your problems because when you bring your problems out there, it's easy for someone to like take note of and even let's say try to help you through it, but it's hard for them to forget the perspective that you painted when you were upset. Right. So if I, in my
Mm.
upset state, go to, I don't know,
Oh,
my sister, and I'm like, you know
yeah.
what? Michael did this thing and he's so infuriating. And can you believe he did that? And
Yeah.
obviously I'm painting this picture of a person who isn't Michael 99% of the time,
Yeah.
right? And then I've given her this perspective. And so whenever I have a problem, it becomes, but remember when he did that one thing, right? And you don't want that kind of outside influence on your problem solving, right?
Mm,
So when we're solving problems, I try to keep them here. You know what I mean?
That's
Yeah.
good wisdom.
That's
yeah.
cool.
That's good wisdom. I like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
Yeah.
I like that advice. It's good stuff. Take
It's
that
good
away. For sure. I think my
Yeah.
only like kind of in the same vein and saying the same message type
Yeah.
thing, but rephrasing it a bit maybe is just like, I think a lot of times people go into a relationship with the expectation of unreality. They go into
Yeah.
it with the expectations that have been given to them by whether it be social media, whether it be
Mhm.
I don't know, movies or shows,
Hollywood. Yeah.
like
Mhm.
all these different forms of media out there that constantly
Mhm.
feed into you this idea that things can just be perfect and over the top and everything you've ever wanted. And I
Yeah.
think a real relationship is work and it's
Mhm.
effort and it takes time. And like you said, all the way back to the beginning of our conversation, like you're always learning each other. You're always
Yes.
constantly
Discovering. Yep.
trying
Mhm.
I
to
believe that.
talk
Yeah.
and learn each other and learn who you are and what you love, and you're changing and
Mhm.
evolving and growing. Your priorities change, who you are inside changes. Like it's always a constant ebb and flow. And again, like just being able to understand that, work through that together, find a way to move through friction together, and then
Mhm.
finding those small moments of happiness and intimacy within that is key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Wow. This was really good. I
Yes.
mean, as you're thinking, like, wow, if even couples with children, some of the gems that you guys shared, they'll be able to use this information to
Mhm.
help them in their marriage and to
Yeah.
make time for each other. And I
Yeah.
think that's just
You need
so
a separate section for children.
Yeah.
You don't have enough questions if you're
That's
talking
right.
children point.
Children is a section 7. Yeah.
There's a whole separate problem.
No, but I really, yeah, 100%, 100%. I hope it's been helpful. I hope this was something
Yeah,
that,
definitely has
Tremendous.
been.
Tremendous.
thank you
Yep.
so
So
much
Thank you for
for
having
letting us.
us.
Yeah.
that's the goal of when we've said this, so many times. The goals of Couples Emporium is that we believe that marriage was created by God. Marriage was created before Christianity, before any
For
religion
any religion.
came
It's a
about.
human
It's
experience.
exactly. So we are open to, and we're saying this to our listeners and our
Mhm.
viewers again, that we are open to interview anyone as long as you're married. I mean, we're also open to, so far we haven't been able to get anyone that's like dating or courting
Yeah.
or
Even folks in a committed
Yep.
relationship where
Yeah.
I know the law calls it common law, but
Yeah.
there are folks out there who are in a committed relationship and they may not necessarily be religious, but they have committed themselves to each other
Mhm.
and they're raising a family, they have
Yep.
children. And we want to
Hear
interview
from
them
you.
too,
Yep.
to
Yeah.
get their, perspective on life and their relationship
Yeah.
and just how they do, what they do.
Yeah. So we appreciate the Shays.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just so touched because I don't know, I can say this. I know Michael before Michael was even born.
Yeah.
It's possible.
These are times where I think you probably feel much older now. You get to be like,
Yep.
oh, I
Actually,
get
I still feel the same.
good for you.
Good. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
I still feel
I
the
love
same
that.
way.
We're
But
young at heart.
yep.
That's
But I
right.
remember
Good.
when he was an announcement.
That,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
So,
just
we thank you guys. This has
Mhm.
been so beautiful. We
Yeah.
appreciate you
Yeah.
taking the time out to
Mhm.
do this. And we look forward to maybe another time because I was going to bring that up to Lincoln.
10-year check-in. Check-in in 10 years.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
check in years. Right, there
Where
you
are
go.
they now?
Where are they now? I was
Yeah.
thinking of probably doing something like that. We could go back to the very first couple
Yeah.
that we interview and see, where are you now?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because it's good to go back and what they call
It's like 5
Touch
years.
base.
yeah,
Yeah.
like check back into what,
Yeah.
because like you said earlier, Mike, a lot of things can transpire
Yeah.
between that time.
Yeah, because people will change.
Yep.
And as they go through their changes, do they still feel the same? Do they still practice those same principles
Right.
that they
Mhm.
shared initially?
Mhm.
And to see that their relationship and as it's still thriving.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's that's a very good perspective.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, there's no such thing. And we find, some couples, they don't want, and I can understand and even appreciate that some people, they're just private. But for the most part, when we talk to people, they're like, my marriage is not at a place. And I'm like, there's
Yeah.
really, we're not trying to interview anybody that's perfect, because there's no perfect
Yes.
marriage.
I
There's no
definitely
such.
thought that. I was like, wow, I don't know that we've we've been married for 3 years now. We're not like a perfect couple. We don't have perfect
There's
systems.
no
So I
such
was like,
thing.
ah.
No
But
such. I mean, you think of all the.
It's not a rival point.
Yep, there's
That's right.
there's still, it's evolving. It's constantly evolving. You're constantly discovering each other and learning more about each other. So there's no race.
Mhm.
Marriage is not a race. I
Yeah.
heard this popular speaker was saying that marriage is, he equated to a marathon.
Mhm.
It's not a sprint. It's not like
Mhm.
take your time. And the more that you grow together, and we don't know how, life is short. We don't know how long.
Any of
So,
us have together.
yep,
Yeah.
Well,
you have
I
time together. So make the most of it. And the
Yeah.
goal is not to, we're going to reach this perfect goal. Yes, you mentioned earlier about priorities, and that's important.
Mhm.
And you have goals, and that's important. But perfection, no.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ralph.
I always kind of try to remember, like, there are many times in my life, like I'm out here, let's say a single mom, Rahaf is like, why me? I'm looking up at God and I'm like, why me? What did I do? This is too hard for me. I hate this. This is so much. And I think, and then I think, like, so for example, I'm like, why couldn't my marriage work? Like, why would God want that for me? Right. And then I find that because I got married and had my son, that was why I was pulled back to Connecticut, and that was why I met Michael in the first place. Or I guess, like,
Mhm.
I seeked counseling and then I met Michael, and at times I think, like, all of that had to happen to put me in the situation right here that I'm in right now, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, how else
Mhm.
would I have met him? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
well, God had a plan and I sat there and complained about it, but at the end of the day, you also just, you go day by day and
Yeah.
you think, like, there's a plan and I'm a piece in it. You know what I mean?
You got a second opportunity.
Yep.
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 Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you guys. We
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
appreciate it
you.
so much. This has been great.
Mm-hmm.
And anything else you want to say?
No, that's it. I just want to say to our listeners that I hope you have enjoyed this as much as we have.
Yes, we
And
did.
if you have not yet subscribed, as I'll often say, what's keeping you? So do
That's right.
subscribe, do share, do like, and let us, know your comments if you have any comments. And as Sandy said earlier, we are looking for others who will be willing to share their experience.
Yes.
And it was just said again, there are no perfect marriages. So, we have common questions that we ask folks, and we just want you to share honestly and just, share some of the things that are positive in your relationship that helps you guys, to thrive. And that's all we're looking for.
Yeah.
So we thank you for joining us
Yes.
today on Couples Emporium. We thank the Sheas, and, we look forward to you guys continue to listen in. All right. So take care now.
All right. We
Thank
thank
you for
you
having
again.
us.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Thank
Bye.
you. Yes. We appreciate you guys supporting Couples Emporium, and
Mm.
our goal is to have thriving relationships. So until next time, take care now.
Mm.
Bye, guys.